In this video, we will show you how to install an adjustable upper ball joint on this Honda Accord. This is part of your front suspension located inside of your front wheel well. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we need to do is raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground and the suspension is hanging. Once you've completed that, remove all 4 of your 19mm lug nuts and then the wheel. With the wheel out of the way, we have a close look at our upper ball joint. To start removing the ball joint from the upper control arm, you're going to start just underneath the knuckle. You'll find that you have a locking cotter pin and a 17mm nut. Remove the pair. Once you have the nut off of there, a quick inspection and start it back on, just a couple threads. We'll use some cutters to remove the cotter pin. Set that aside for recycling. With the nut on there, a couple threads, we'll continue on with a hammer. We're going to lightly tap along the knuckle here, causing vibration to separate this area. Don't do this unless you have the mounting nut on there. Got our hammer for this. When you pull down on the control arm to remove the mounting nut, you want to be extremely careful with the steering knuckle. The steering knuckle could potentially pull away from the vehicle, which in turn could put a tug on your axle. You want to be extremely careful. To prevent it falling away, we'll make sure we have a strap handy. Once we do have it separated, we'll try to push this aside. Let's use our strap just in case here. Doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere. With that out of the way, we'll continue on to removing the ball joint boot so we can remove the snap ring located just above it. Use a small pick to remove the boot. The boot itself does have a clip that wraps around it several times. Just want to carefully pry that out of place. Careful for any pinch points. Pull that right off of there. Can set that aside, dispose of it properly. Now we can remove the snap ring. You're looking for 2 ears that have small holes in them. We'll continue on with some snap ring pliers. You can use straight or angled, whatever is preferable to you. We'll set this aside for recycling. Now we'll have to continue on with a ball joint press and a hollow cup. You want to make sure you have the hollow cup up and over the top of the control arm in a way that the ball joint can make its way up and inside of it. The next thing we'll have to do is continue on along the bottom of the ball joint. We're going to have to press the ball joint up, as I had mentioned. When doing so, you don't want to press up against the shaft here or the stud of the ball joint because that'll just press through the top of the ball joint. With that said, we'll be using a socket or an adapter that fits over the stud up against the base of the ball joint. Now it's time for that ball joint press. We'll take this and get it in position. Continue on applying pressure on this. Let's get that lined up. Try to get this as straight as possible. Now we can start applying pressure. When doing so, we'll be paying attention to the ball joint, watching it make its way up through the control arm into the upper cup. There it is, friend. Now we can prepare to install our brand new ball joint. We want to make sure we have this in the proper orientation. When you go to install this, we'll have the slotted portion facing out towards us. That's negative camber. Of course, by the time we are done all this, you're going to be bringing your vehicle to an alignment professional and they'll adjust it as necessary. Go ahead and install it along the bottom of that control arm. It should rest right in there. Now we can continue on to the washer. Along the top, you'll see that it is flat. And if you were to turn it over for the bottom side, it does have the recessed area in the center. We'll have the recessed area facing down towards that ball joint. Continue on to your locking mounting nut. For this, you do not need to use any thread locker because the alignment professional will have to loosen this to adjust this. At this point, you do not need to use a strap to pull down on the control arm, but it does make it a little bit easier. We're going to have to hold onto the lower portion of the ball joint here, just underneath the control arm. While holding this area, we'll continue on by tightening that locking nut. To hold this, you can use some pliers, and we'll use a socket up along the top. The size for that is 1 1/8 inches. Torque this to 80 foot-pounds. We'll be holding this with our pliers down along the bottom here. Now we can release pressure from that upper control arm. It should raise up, and we'll continue on attaching the knuckle. Get this strapped off of here. Take hold of that knuckle. We'll carefully bring it down into place. Start on your mounting nut. Snug it up, torque it to 32 foot-pounds. The next thing we'll do is put in our locking cotter pin. If you find that this isn't properly aligned, you're going to want to make sure you continue tightening the mounting nut until the very next slot is aligned with the mounting port. Make sure to pin it over. One last quick inspection in this area and we'll reinstall our wheel. If you have a hubcap, you can install that now. Pay attention to your valve stem port. We want to make sure we have that aligned. Start on all 4 of your 19mm lug nuts and bottom them out. With the wheel back on the ground, we'll torque the lug nuts to 80 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Torqued. Okay, friend, we finished the installation of our upper ball joint. At this point, go ahead and take your vehicle for a road test down to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.